It says we are live and streaming. There you are. Oh, you look so pretty today.
Brushed my hair for this.
Showered just for you.
All right, let's see. Just want to make sure I have this up so I can see anybody who's coming on.
Yeah.
There. All right. All right, there we are.
There we are. Good morning.
All right, one comment. Good morning, Teresa.
So glad to be here.
Yes. So we'll wait a few minutes for people to get signed on to Facebook or on Zoom.
Yeah, on the top of your screen, do you have it on speaker view or do you have it on panelist view? So it doesn't pop back and forth to both of our faces.
Good call. There we are.
Good morning, Teresa.
All right. So if anyone wants to log in who's on Facebook, I'm going to drop the password in there in case or LinkedIn didn't have the password. All right. And I'll just check my email.
Okay. Good morning, Barb. As promised, I brought mimosas. Good morning to everybody. Might be my favorite.
Mimosas, yes. The clock on my computer is actually wrong.
Right. What's it saying? Mine says 10:04.
10:07, but my phone says 10:04. That's why I check my phone. Let me just send out one more password.
While we're waiting for everybody to jump on and join us, if you brought your journal, amazing. We've got a couple minutes if you need to grab it. If you didn't print up your sheets to go along this with us, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we are going to post some of our notes from this if you want to be present instead of taking notes. Sometimes for me, I know when I write it, it's like I internalize it in a different way. So I understand that in all the ways.
Yes. So the printouts, there's 2 pages. Well, there's a bunch of pages, but there's just enough space to take like just a couple notes. So I think the intention was we're going to definitely leave some notes in the Facebook page because we want you to be, yes, I agree, present. But if anything strikes you as really important, just jot it down and it will mean something to you later.
Yeah, and similarly, if there's something you really loved and you want me to tag a resource, like I've already got a list of pages that or links that I'm going to send to you just about other resources and tools that I might chat to. But if you're like, oh, that one was really good, please make sure it's in there. Just go ahead and put that in the comments too.
Right. So I think, do you want to get started? Or do you want to give us a couple more minutes?
No, it feels good to start.
Okay. All right. So welcome everybody to our Authenticity Masterclass. I forgot what word it was. Welcome everybody, everybody who's here now and everybody who will be here on the replay. Anybody who had the intention of being in our container this morning, welcome to the Authenticity Masterclass. So we just want to create a sacred space together. So creating a sacred space, we're just calling in our higher powers, our higher selves, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And this allows us to feel safe and secure and allows us to be vulnerable in this experience. So I invite you, if it's available to you, to close your eyes and just feel into the earth beneath us, grounding into Mother Earth, feeling supported at all times, feeling part of the collective that is Mother Earth, feeling part of a community, feeling part of all of us together as one species, as one family. And sending gratitude and love to Mother Earth for holding us here. And just reaching out and witnessing sacred space around us, circling us in the interwebs, in our spaces, in our homes, and calling on divine white light, calling on your higher power, calling on your higher self to move in and create a space of peace and safety and love. And taking a moment to invite in any energy that makes you feel safe, and connecting to the energy of this container, to the energy of authenticity. And we'd like to especially welcome today the energy of Ganesha. So Ganesha is a Hindu deity. He has the elephant head, and he has a gorgeous story. And when Ganesha is with us, Ganesha represents new beginnings. He also is the remover of obstacles. So for Ashley and I, and for everyone here, we want to celebrate the beginning of our live series, Masterclass and retreats. And we also want to invite that energy of busting through barriers, moving us towards our authentic, healthy, loving selves. So the circle is created. And welcome everybody to our Authenticity Masterclass. So I'm going to allow Ashley to tell us a little bit about who she is.
Right. So thank you again, Beth. This is just going to be amazing. I don't know if you caught what I wrote this morning. I said, this morning we're taking you to church.
Right.
And, you know, some people talk about that, or in the traditional meaning of church. Church has a lot of rules. Church has a lot of ways that they tell you the best ways to live your life. They tell you what to do, how to do it, how to live, and all these other things. But I want to take it to a different kind of church this morning, the ones where the tenets are transformational.
Other resources.
Ooh, sorry about that. Please.
No worries. Where the beliefs are incredibly practical, where the architecture is already divine, the values are inspiring, and this might even be the last church you ever have to go to in search of whatever you're looking for. And I know that's a really bold statement. If you're ready to boldly meet me there, this is the church of you. Those things, those places, those beliefs within yourself that ground you, that center you, that make you whole. And this cultivating authenticity is the first step in doing that. If you have your notes there with you, I'm going to chat to Brene Brown for just a moment. Brene Brown is one of the most well-known shame and guilt researchers. If you want to look her name up, and I'll be adding her, it's B-R-E-N-E, so Renee, but with a B. And in her processes of researching guilt and researching shame and all the pieces that come with it, there's a lot of these tenets and foundational things that might have been brought to us in our life that have told us what to do, how to walk and talk and live and be and invest and love. And as we start letting some of these things go that have been forced upon us that might not be in alignment with who we are, we can step into cultivating those values at the church of us that ground us and center us and keep us whole. So quick question, do I have screen sharing permissions? Let me see if I can do it. Nope. It's all right, I can add this to.
You got it.
I got it now?
Yes, you do.
All right.
One moment, please.
Okay. I'm ready if you are. So Brene Brown talks a lot about wholehearted living and authenticity. And this is one of my favorite, can you see it? Guideposts for wholehearted living. And if you look at the very, very top of the list here, when we let go of what other people think, we can step into authenticity. And similarly, there's other things that as we let go of them, we can step into that wholehearted place of living life according to the church of us. And this kind of goes back to that foundational piece of if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, or you'll blend in, or you'll be a chameleon and not really have that foundation of who you are. So as we look at that first chakra, that root chakra, there's some emotions that can get trapped in this place that keep us from having a foundation that we build upon. And it feels a little bit more like quicksand. And two of those things are guilt and shame. So I'm going to define them for you just so you have an operating definition of what that looks like when I'm speaking about it. And I'll provide these definitions to you as well. But shame is that toxic and crippling sense of unworthiness, that enoughness, that whatever we have made it to be, that there's something lacking about us. We have a measuring stick that measures me to Beth or me to anyone else. And there's this constant piece that we're trying to do something, but it's more to measure up in comparison to somebody else rather than standing in that power of who we are. That guilt is a sense of failure to live up to this values and moral system. So this is kind of like if you look at a traditional church, you do this, 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 and this, or it's considered a sin. You do this, 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 and that, and then you're good. And if we look at, again, the ways that we can step into the authentic alignment of who we are, what grounds us, centers us, and keeps us whole. If we're at the church of us, we set the rules, we set the values, we set the thing that is going to set us on fire, and then we can radiate that to the rest of the world. And it's an amazing, beautiful place to be. And when we say dogma, this is the third emotion that gets trapped here. This can come with a rule set, but dogma, when I speak to it as an emotional charge, it's a prejudice or a bias that it can only be done one way. And a lot of us as humans, I call it in our human flesh bag, there's this notion of the divine, of the holy, of the higher power that we are disconnected to because we are sinners. And Beth and I, as students of religions, and we've probably gone through at least 22 religions between us recently, there's a lot of rules on how to do it. And there might be more than one. There might be a rule that works for Beth's life that has nothing to do with me, and that's okay. The first step of cultivating authenticity at that root chakra level is understanding that you are the roots. You have all you need within you. And then the more that you set into those and let that foundation dry, the stronger it's going to be as you build up into that alignment and connect back to the however you connect. And this notion of sin is what keeps us from being divine. And if we can infuse that with love or eros is, I consider eros to be the glue. Some people are like, oh gosh, you just said eros. Why are you talking about erotic things? This is kind of crazy. But it's not. It is that life force. It is that creativity. It is that passion that allows us to infuse everything we do with excitement and joy and creation and pleasure in everything that we do. So going back to some of Brene Brown's work, if you've never read anything by her, there's a book I highly recommend I brought with me today. It's called Daring Greatly. So this is a tip and a trick and one of those philosophies that I totally love. And it is just amazing. It's about the courage, not just to be vulnerable, but when we can do that, we can step into a different way of living, a way of loving, the way that we parent, the ways that we lead others. And it absolutely gives you the power restored to step into wholehearted living. So definitely one of my favorites. She's got about 4 other books that she has put out. You can check her out. She's got a new podcast that just came out. She's just an amazing, amazing person. If you watch a lot of TV, she has been on Oprah. She's been on USA Today. She's been on the Today Show. She's been in international networks. She's been with Deepak Chopra. She's been all over the place, just sharing these gifts of wholehearted living. So, a quick question. Anybody have questions on that? Anybody? Beth, do you have anything you want to add to the root chakra here?
Root chakra. This is where we are connected as a family. This is where we are one. And that's a huge piece of authenticity. I can't say it today. It's just going to be that way. But I love the root chakra because it reminds us that we are all one. And that is huge for authenticity because that allows other people to show up. It gives you space to show them they can be authentic. And by leading and your example gives them that freedom to be their authentic selves.
Yeah. She did a TED talk, I think about 9 or 10 years ago. If you wanted to look that up, it was amazing. I think she has a Netflix special out also. It might still be up. I know Netflix has gotten itself in trouble a bit recently, but we're not going to go there right now. But you can totally check out anything Brene Brown. And I'm going to cheers anybody else who brought their mimosas with them this morning.
I'm such a lightweight that if I had a mimosa this morning, it would be completely different.
I just put a little bit in there. I wanted to be able to get through all of our fun today.
I know. I'm going to celebrate with one.
Excellent. So any questions real quick that we have about this idea, this philosophy, this person, this resource map tool in terms of daring greatly to show up in that authenticity and wholehearted living? I'll wait just a second and I want to share one last thing.
So I'm going to go on mute because when I bring up the comments, it brings us up on Facebook Live. And then that's what you hear. Like so I'm going to just mute and check for questions. Technically challenged this morning.
All right, while she's doing that, I'm going to give you a couple of my other favorite Brene Brown quotes. And the first one is that courage is contagious. Every time that we choose courage, we make everyone around us a little better and the world around us a little braver. The next one, don't try to win over the haters. You're not the jackass whisperer. And if we look back at that, those tenets that she has for wholehearted living, letting go of what other people think is what guides us to that place, and just living the life, beating our drum to get there. And then the other one is, we talked a lot about connection and how that has been really lacking the way the world has been recently. And some people have taken this time to really step into a life, a love, a dream, a project, all the to-do lists, and however they've done it. Other people haven't been able to get there, and that's okay. When it comes to building tribe, building community, building connection, building the ways that we want to be supported in this world, another one of my favorite quotes is, if you're not getting your ass kicked in the arena, I am not here for your opinions. Mm-hmm. And I really love that because it calls to us to stand almost with an armor, not built around us to keep people out, but to build that foundational piece of strength. The last thing about Brene Brown, another book is called The Gifts of Imperfection. A lot of times in the world, we compare ourselves, again, to a lot of other people, and standing into what perfect means, what imperfect means. And as imperfect, it might mean that you are hardwired for struggle, but at the same time, you are so worthy of love and belonging, no matter what comes your way. And I want to quote you, Beth.
Oh, I love that.
Quote you. I had a session with Beth. If you didn't know, she is magnificent, and she's an angel intuitive, and so many other things. I couldn't do it justice if I tried. But in the session, she said to me, Ashley, The darkness knows it's light before the light knows it's light. That's why light workers or people who are called into that higher place of serving humanity might struggle with oppressions, might struggle with abuses, or ways that life just kicks your ass a bit, because you are meant for something so much greater. Whether it's being a generational curse breaker or just setting a foundation for your family moving forward, this is absolutely one of the reasons it might be hard. And that's okay, because in building that community, you're going to be supported to just light up and push through, leaning into that scary, into the hardness, to make magnificent thing happen.
So we have a lot of Allison Hayes is with us. Maria McCord is with us. So Allison loved that quote. And I have to say that quote came to me from one of my angel advisors, Colleen St. Michael's. And that was one of the pieces that we worked on together. And I think that is an enormous concept, because the dark is coming after you to stop your light from shining before you even realize how strong you are. And that's why one of the things I'm going to get into is, expressing our authenticity before we are at rock bottom, which is where it's a little easier to authentically choose. But it's about just doing the work. So thank you. Maria, yes, I owe you information. Maria said that's one of her favorites. She was talking about the last Brene Brown book you were talking about, and she loves her Netflix series. So Brene Brown fans. And
excellent.
Jess, before rock bottom, yeah, that's the goal. Generational curse breaker for sure. Yes, Jess. Welcome, Jessie.
Amazing.
All right.
So just let's take a deep breath in together. Just that can be a lot of information. Some people, so I retired from the Army a while back. So I've had like 5 different lives already on this planet. But sometimes life can be like being fed from a fire hose. And sometimes this information can be like that too. And at the same time, something might be for you, something might not be. That's okay. If you're like, oh, that's really in alignment, amazing. And if it similarly, you're like, oh, I'm good, I got that part down, that's amazing too. We just want to give those philosophies, tips and tricks and tools to get you to that place in building that church of you. So let's talk next to the second one on my sheet that's talking about imago. And we're going to go to imago therapy is actually a way that you can get certified. So I am on my 3rd master's degree, as if I couldn't love schooling enough. But I studied marriage and family therapy. And okay, I'm gonna grab this book real quick. I forgot it. All these ways that I've told you I want to give you tips and tricks along the way. Here we go. Now, even though it is a therapeutic approach, it is very, very practical. And this one is a very easy read. So imago is basically the belief that we are encoded with the ways that we need to heal ourselves to step into our power. So do this activity with me real quick. If you've got a piece of paper, feel free to write it down, or I'll be sure to add this in my notes section. So with imago, step 1, all of us presumably have had 2 primary caregivers when we were growing up. 2 primary caregivers. Think about who those 2 people might be, whether it was mom and dad, was it mom and grandma, was it grandpa and aunt, or however your family structure was in that upbringing. Who are the 2 people? Let's make 2 different columns. And we're going to be writing 6 things in each column. We'll get there, just so you can space plan. Because I know I'm always like, how much room do I need to do this? All right, so put one person in one column, put the other person in the other column. Now, we're going to say primary caregiver number 1. And just for ease of this, I'm gonna use some gendered language or assume that it's a certain person. If it's someone else for you, that's cool too. So let's talk about dad first, or your first person. right up there, the three things, top three things you absolutely loved about them. There might be some wounding, there might be some pain, but what were three things that you loved about person number one or your dad? Similarly, three things about mom or primary caregiver number two in that other column under them. I know personally, I had a lot of mama wounding growing up. And I'm saying yes to heal that wounded child, but we'll talk about that one a different day. Okay, we've got our top three amazing things. Now write a line underneath it, however you want to do that. Now, the three things that were awful about them.
For fun for everybody. My mother's on this call.
Hello, Mother.
My mother is here, so I won't be revealing these, and there's nothing horrible about my mother at all, ever.
and you know what? These aren't things that you need to share with someone else, or these aren't things that you need to share even with a partner, unless you're at that place of vulnerability, of safety, of we're going to talk about boundaries in a little bit, that talk about how to hold that space even in the hard and sucky stuff. She says, watch it, Beth. All right, the sucky things about dad and the sucky things about mom, write those on there too. Now, crumple your paper up. If you can't, that's cool. Do it in your mind and put it in, or put it in one of those salad spinners. You know, you clean your lettuce, you spin it around, and it's pops out your perfect imago match. What in the world is this? This could be a lover, a partner, your lifetime person that holds all 6 amazing things and all 6 horrible things. It could be a soulmate, or where I don't operate with the theory of the one in loving and living. It could be that one relationship is sent to you to heal this one thing. Another relationship is sent to you to heal that thing. And you'll keep being sent these people until this healing is complete. So I'll give you an example. So this is my book and my resource for right here. It's called Getting the Love You Want, a Guide for Couples by Harville Hendricks. And so I found that it was amazing. And I've got like all my notches in the top of the book, like, oh, do this one. Oh, read that. I love writing in my books, which is why I'll probably never be one of those people that gets Kindle books because I want to touch it. I want to smell it. I want to write in it, all those things. But I'm a geek like that. So, so here's a quote for you by Andre Maurois. In literature, as in love, we are astonished at what is chosen by others. So even though we have that idea of what our imago is, we're also that imago for somebody else, that imago match for that healing piece to happen. So if someone is, let's go to the example of my father. I'll speak to this. My sister is Allison, so she'll maybe relate to this one too. So my father, he was, I'll say a good thing and a bad thing. He was funny. He was a really funny person. So sometimes I have sought myself or found myself wanting to be with people who are very entertaining. If somebody's boring or bull or like just dry in their humor, it doesn't do much for me. But when I have found that person who is that balance of humorous and down to earth and unpretentious, that's when that has been healed for me in other relationships. Similarly, one of the worst things about him, he was not present. So looking back and reflecting on the ways that I had relationships where they might have not been emotionally present, I needed to learn how to show up emotionally present for myself and heal that wound to stand into that greater piece of authenticity and power as well. Now, similarly, this is where mirror theory comes in. Mirror theory is that whatever is going on with me and I'm projecting it at you has nothing to do with you. It's something that I need. So Beth, you just made me so mad. We went to New York and you wanted to get this weird kind of pizza, and like, whoa, like this is like, I mean, it could be something as dumb as pizza. It could be leaving the shoes at the front door. It could be the toothbrush splatter on the mirror, whatever the silly thing. Or your kids, when your kids come up with a really strong personality, what is that mirroring to you? I don't feel like I'm in control. I don't feel like I have the ability to emotionally handle this, whatever it is. When you're like, kiddo, stop acting like this. Okay, where are you not standing in your power and control? Because they're just mirroring what that is that you might need. Or when it's about the shoes, oh my gosh, maybe I'm lacking in my own organization systems. And so I'm going to project it at you. Put your shoes away. Or like my kids, pick up your socks. The ways that we might miss out on little teeny tiny things or doing it right the first time can cause wounding, unintentional wounding, if we don't take the trigger to the mirror first. I'm really pissed off by this. Don't take it to the person, take it to the mirror. What is that telling you about you? And then if there's a boundary that's been crossed, then you can take the boundary to the person. So take the trigger to the mirror and the boundary to the person. And that's a great way to start standing in what it is that you want and you need in life and love and relationships, even work relationships with financial abundance, or relationships with the divine, with angels, with higher powers. Create that space for it to be full completely as you step into you. You can call them in to guide you for the strength to do the thing, for the power to do the thing, or to help take away the things that might be blocking you from getting there. Speaking of blockages, I have 3 emotions for this area too. And let's talk about this being the sacral chakra, chakra number 2. This is where creativity and pleasure happens. Sure, we could talk about all of the ways that, sexual fun and pleasure can come in here, but unless we're able to insource that instead of outsourcing that, we might be met with fear, this future-based projection of not being good enough to do it. If we go back to those imago matches, okay, is it really about one of these or is it fear? That one's usually pretty huge. Grief is an inability to let go of the past. So one thing, I'm going to go there. One thing I wish I would have been taught, I've got a list of things I wish I would have been taught in relationship intelligence, is that I'm not for everyone. I really wish I would have been taught that. Or rejection intelligence. Hey, babe, I know your little boyfriend just broke your heart, and 99% of relationships are going to fail. I mean, that might be kind of heavy and big for young children, but to learn that nothing is wrong with you, it's just not in alignment anymore. And if you're looking for that person who is your one in your one theory, or your match for whatever healing needs to happen, amazing. We don't need to be in that grief or that inability to let it go to step into what might be bigger and greater and more powerful for us. And also, the inability to act in the face of fear is paralyzed will. That emotion is huge. Some people have been talking a lot all over social media about the fight, flight, or freeze. We've all seen it somehow in our life. There's a couple other ones. Fight, flight, and freeze are great, but there's also fawning, where we'll just do anything for anybody else. We'll become anything they need us to be. Or even, sorry, mom, fucking. Some people will just have sex and have sex and have sex, trying to fill this void of being very fearful. These things happen when we can't stand in the power of that sacral energy that is pushing us and moving us to our creativity, to the pleasures of life, before we can even step into pleasures with another. And this is more of that eros, that intentionality, the pleasureful, just that things that can emanate from you to build you up and guide you forward. Got a couple comments here. What else do we have?
So we have just really a lot of affirmations.
Cool.
Teresa said deep. She loved earlier in the conversation, she was talking about the imago, and I think that I share that with her. Like, looking at that list was pretty telling. And Jessie said seriously. So this piece is resonating with her. This is
excellent.
And this resonates me. That especially that's huge, that not everyone has to like you. That's that people pleaser energy where we compartmentalize who we are and to be able to fit into different pockets of our external world. And really our authenticity is what calls in the right people.
Yeah. I mean, I was so put in a box. My sister and I were both put in a box, and you can only be this in a box. And that box hurt. That box sucked. And it was like it wasn't even like a box, Beth. It was like a crate, one of those milk crates even that you could look out of. But once you were in the box, you couldn't even look out of the crate. It was intense. And learning to look out of the box or break the box or break out of the box, build a new box or say, fuck the box. This is why my Angelou style, I know why the caged bird sings in so many ways. If you haven't read that poem, definitely check it out.
So Jessie says, I definitely use sex as my power. Maria says that this is super powerful. Allison says, performative for love.
Yeah. And when it comes to sex as power, there is some sex magic, amazing manifestation tools that we can use when we're using it with the right intention and mindset. Now, some people, however they choose to love and relate in every other way, cool, no judgment zone here. If your intention is clear with the other person, but use that to manifest, use it to move through healing and pain and suffering. In my work, I have a whole gamut of clients that I work with. I work with like kids and their parents talking about sex ed for the first time and all those things that they wish that they would have taught their kids, parenting from that gap. But I also work with some pretty taboo people that use either BDSM as a therapy, not realizing that this is a wound that it's healing as well, and working with them on the emotional clearing of like the intention of what they're doing. It is amazing, Beth. Like people are like, I have never heard of this kind of stuff ever before. And it's so powerful. They're like, you do what? I don't do it. I just guide you on how to do it. My hands are always to myself. But it's quite fascinating how much emotions and emotional pathogens can just affect our body. Like we're having a great day, our body feels great too. We're having a bad day, our back hurts, our guts hurt, our knees hurt, our hips hurt. We just can't wait to take a nap. These emotions are pathogens for life. And as we work through clearing these up emotionally, it can take us to a more freed, liberated state in that transformational peace, the deep transformational goodness guiding us and cultivating that authenticity.
Isn't that huge for the sacral chakra, which is you have the right to feel and have pleasure. So this is about following authentic pleasure to move in the direction of your highest good. So whatever form and shape that takes. Beautiful.
And, even if we look at, some of the metaphors of the traditional Christian or Catholic Church, we are the bridegroom of Christ. There's a pleasurable marriage piece that flows within that. And similarly, that flow can happen within our own life where we learn how to come to that church of us and whatever powers, entities we want to call it, or masculine, feminine, that balance that swirls for it all to flow beautifully. It can all happen at that church of you as well.
Allison says authenticity and self-acceptance.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times have you ever been like, man, I wish I could have done this thing? Okay, do it now. Even if it was a wish that you had when you were 7 years old, amazing. Do it now. We don't need to stand in a regretful existence if we are going to be standing in the power of who we are. We wanted to make a daisy chain. You know what? Put on your scarves as twirly girl skirts and go dance under the moonlight in the rain if that's what it is that you want and you need. Don't keep living in that place of I wish I would have done the thing. Or, here's another piece of it. What if you wanted to do something because it was expected of you? That was a big one growing up, for me anyways. I must be married by this time. I must have this many kids by this time. I can only be married once, says this person or that person, or all those other rules. But what if these vows, these commitments that we have made don't serve? Or we committed to doing something, we feel like obligated to do it, but it doesn't fit with us anymore. It's not in alignment. It's okay to change your mind. And I think we really need to normalize that, especially in society. Unfortunately, even though we're higher level, multifaceted, multidimensional beings, we still live in a world that can should all over us. Oh, they can should all over us all day long. Oh, goodness. And it's okay to change your mind or say that this no longer works. So my last piece I'm going to add here is a course called The Vow, VOW. It is hosted by Yana and Nieniso Dzedze. She is British or German British, and he is South African. She lives in South Africa. So you do play a bit with time zones there. I think for Eastern Standard Time, it was meeting about 3 o'clock for Eastern Standard Time. The course is getting ready to start up, I think, in October. And this course was so powerful for me, just in talking about boundaries and talking about those vows that I made under the midnight sky and saying I was going to do, and blah, 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 all these contracts that I had made. Oh, wow. Am I vowing to love myself first in all of this? Even in a marriage vow, did you vow to love yourself first? Or how can you infuse that into your marriage, into your relationship, into your partnership, so that you're not with a court jester all the time? But if you want to check that out, I'll definitely put the link. And I think if you want to do it, if you use a discount code by me, it's like another 20% off, I think. But that starts up in October. And that's great for people who are single. If you are partnered, they have partner discounts to do it as a team. And it's so amazing. I'm going to be doing it for the 3rd time. Like, it is so good. So good. All right, and I will close chakra 2 right there. Any other questions before Beth comes and talks about some of her?
Coming in with the fire. Letting go of less than authentic friendships, Allison.
Ooh, yeah.
So we're going to touch on these, a lot of these pieces, because as we're rising up through our chakras, and by the way, we came together just by accident, each of us having selected 3 different chakras to move through. So that felt like the appropriate way to go through this container. So my name's Beth Barling. For those who don't know me, welcome. I'm so grateful to have you here. And I want to talk a little bit about the current climate, and why Ashley and I are doing this specifically. Whether you witness this current chaos as ascension, renaissance, pandemic posturing, awakening, this has been this gorgeous moment of sitting back, this gorgeous moment of sitting really close to self, sitting close to our closest loved ones. So a lot of pieces are coming up for us. There's a lot of stuff that's coming up. And it can be, very daunting and very uncomfortable. And this is one of the many reasons that Ashley and I wanted to do this, because without the necessary tools, sometimes these things are, almost impossible to move through. And we're going to see a little bit more about that in the 3rd chakra, which is the seat of our independence. So what is authenticity? It is the quality of being authentic. It is of undisputed origin or genuine. So when we talk about being authentic, we talk about being in this soul space. That's how I witness it. That's how I envision it. It's that piece of us that is unchangeable, and it's underneath these layers and layers of conditioning and patterning and rules and dogma and all the things that Ashley was talking about. And it's not just our conditioning. It's a lot of our conditioning has been sent down from lineages. There's ancestral conditioning over and over and over again. So we are conditioned by our parents, and in turn we condition our children. So all of us stepping forward, everybody here, anybody who steps forward ever to undo some of that is breaking the mold, is breaking free, and that is spreading out in all different directions. So breaking free, breaking the mold, burning through, this is the 3rd chakra. So our 3rd chakra is the Manipura. This is this center. I always have yoga pants on just in case. This is the center right here, this solar plexus center. So it's sort of right by our diaphragm. And if you want, you can feel in there, there's sort of like a little love connection of your ribs where that solar plexus is. And this is, you know, the seat of our independence. This is the seat of our willpower. This is the seat of, this is where we're individuals. So we talked a little bit about, Ashley talked about the first chakra, where we are rooted in community. We're rooted in each other. We're rooted into the world. And then we talk a little bit about the sacral chakra, where we start to find our pleasure and we start to find how we communicate with the world, how we communicate with our emotions, how we, you know, that mirror theory, how we're witnessing the world back to us. And then the third chakra, as we rise up through these earthly chakras, this is this seat of autonomy, of individuation, willpower, self-esteem. And the right here is the right to act and to be an individual. So no matter who you are, no matter where you are, this is our right. This chakra, this third chakra says, I have the right to act and I have the right to be an individual. I have the right to be myself. And that's a very powerful concept, that what is within you is, you have a right to let that out. You have a right to let that individuation out. And as with any of the chakras, it's about balance. So, you know, this Manipura chakra, this solar plexus chakra, sometimes this gets a bad rep because this is the center of our ego. And in the spiritual world, we hate the ego. Sometimes we hate the ego. The ego is, you know, that little voice that tells us what we can't do, what's dangerous, what to be afraid of. And there's a lot of really beautiful reasons, obviously, to have our ego. It's part of the human journey, is our ego. But it's about balancing that ego. It's about finding a healthy relationship with your ego. And, you know, same with our Manipura chakra. This is about coming into this sovereignty, this sovereign place by balancing. So a couple of ways you may witness yourself being out of balance with the Manipura chakra. Sometimes it's in excess, and those are people who are power hungry, they're aggressive, they're domineering, they're controlling, they need to be right all the time, they're stubborn, they're competitive, they're arrogant, they're hyperactive, they're abusive. So that's an overactive Manipura chakra. Now, a deficient Manipura chakra is when we have low energy, when we are easily manipulated, when we have poor self-discipline, when we can't follow through on things, we're cold, we're attracted to stimulants, cigarettes and coffee. My favorites. I had to give them up recently. Well, cigarettes a long time ago. Victim mentality, blaming others, being passive, being unreliable. So, you know, with any of our chakras, there's these different, you know, these extremes that we go to. And it's really important to witness this from the consideration of becoming authentic, because this is our individual center. This is that, you know, the highest peak of our earthly chakras is this Manipura, and this is who we are as people. And then we can move up to, you know, the heart, where we're bridging into the celestial chakras. So I find, for me, my experience is that none of the chakras, you know, there's just energy. Energy never dies. It's always here. So the Manipura chakra, if you're excessive and you are aggressive and you feel aggressive and you feel like, you know, I'm a rough boss, I just cannot tolerate with, you know, those kinds of things. There's the possibility is that there's like a pendulum swing, that in a lot of ways you are deficient. Maybe you do have low self-esteem. Maybe you are experiencing poor self-discipline. Maybe you are experiencing being a victim. So there's, you know, that consideration that there's a balance within our chakras, and that's what we're striving for. So I wanted to talk a little bit about ways to really balance that Manipura chakra, because I assume that unless you have a perfectly balanced Manipura, and that is perfectly possible, one of these things has struck home for you as a piece that you're trying to move through and work through. And one of the ways I like to heal anything, and especially the Manipura, is with breath. So the Manipura, whether you're excessive or you're deficient, a good way to heal this is to just breathe, is to come into a diaphragmatic breath And that diaphragmatic breath activates our vagus nerve. So if you want to, I invite you to send your hands to that solar plexus chakra and just feel that energy center. And if it's available, you can close your eyes and just tune into that gorgeous little ball of energy in your belly, that yellow ball. So it's like fire. It's like yellow diamonds, crystalline in there. This is your individuality. This is where you get to say what you want to do with your life. This is a gorgeous center of you. All the pieces you take from being part of the collective, your root, all the pieces you take from communicating with others and your emotions, and then you figure out who you are. So we inhale, we fill our belly, and on the exhale, belly button to spine. And that's not a natural breath for everyone, but that's diaphragmatic breathing. When we inhale, filling the belly, exhale, belly button to spine. And what we're doing here is we're calming ourselves down. So we are cultivating self-mastery, calm, stress-free, moving through this. And it's always a good idea to place your hands on your body wherever you need to heal, because where we heal is from our heart. And our heart runs through meridians and nadis through our arms and moves into our hands. That's why we heal with our hands. That's why Reiki healers touch you. That's why doctors heal with their hands. It's why mothers hold their babies with their hands. It's why we garden with our hands. We nurture the earth with our hands. So our hands are very healing, and you are very powerful. So holding that space in your body and just breathing and calming down. This is one way to really settle and balance that Manipura chakra. So some of the tools here outside of breath, and I welcome you to open your eyes again if you want, if you're feeling calm or if you want to stay in that place. If you're deficient, if that resonated with you, I invite you to take risks. I invite you to do something that is completely uncomfortable to you. I invite you not, don't hurt yourself, but definitely take a risk, baby step, moving into different risks that you would not normally do. Say things you wouldn't normally say. Deep relaxation, stress control. Find some ways to relax and come into that place of calm, self-mastery. Also, one good way to really balance that independence in this Manipura chakra is to set your focus actually on the first two chakras. So focusing on the root and the sacral, focusing on community, focusing on love, focusing on what brings us together. And that will help you to rise up as an empowered leader, as a leader who is kind and benevolent, and moving in the direction of everyone's highest good and your highest good. And at the end of the day, we're all one. So our collective highest good is the highest good of you as well. Vigorous exercise, core work. So doing squats and working your belly and breathing. And when you exhale, maybe really squeezing that belly. That's one way to ignite that fire in that belly. So a couple of emotions to bring up at this level. So in standard chakra theory, the demon of the chakra is shame. Now that's a little different than Ashley and I do a lot of work together with the spiral container, and we're both spiral practitioners, but I want to bring up shame again here, because shame, like Ashley said, is a toxic and crippling sense of unworthiness. And consider that from a chakra perspective, how could you possibly embody personal sovereignty, your unique fire, if you're walking around in shame all the time? So really sitting with our shame, unpacking it, journaling it, moving through shame. That's a really important piece to moving into that authentic sovereign voice. And in the spiral, the things that we clear are pride, anger, and desire. And what's really important here is these emotions, pride, anger, desire, shame, these aren't bad. Emotions aren't bad. Nothing's good or bad. Emotions are how our body speaks to us. It is the language of the wisdom of our body. So it's important not to brush these aside, not to say, okay, that made me ashamed, so I'm not going to do that anymore, even though that's part of your purpose work. Maybe that's part of your purpose work. Maybe something that I'm doing feels shameful because I've been told it's shameful. But in actuality, that's part of the work I'm doing, and I'm opening up space for others to not be ashamed in that kind of, need in their life. So one yogic concept I wanted to bring to the table to allow you to consider sitting in these emotions, journaling these emotions is tapas. So tapas is one of the yamas and niyamas of yoga. And I do have a book I just want to show you guys. So this book is the yamas and niyamas. So this is a fantastic book about the first two limbs of yoga, goes over the austerities, the self-disciplines. And tapas itself is self-discipline. So this is, as per Deborah Adele, tapas is our determined effort to become someone of character and strength. So tapas is heat, literally. And this manipura, this element is fire. So this is about being in the fire. This is about being in those emotions, those uncomfortable emotions. This is about facing the uncomfortableness of this recent quarantine, about sitting so close to your feelings, and instead of brushing them aside and ignoring them or blaming external, but to actually sit with those emotions and say, hey, what is this? What does this mean? What is my body telling me? And one of my favorite shows, and I know it's silly to reference shows, but in American Gods, one of the characters said, he said, yes, book list for sure. But he says, anger is what gets shit done. And that like struck me so much. And I was like, that's exactly what my anger is. Your anger is when you perceive your boundaries are being impeded on. So anger is a really important emotion. So it's not about squashing that emotion. It's about sitting in that emotion. And tapas is a really good way to sit in your emotion. It's about catharsis, transformation, self-discipline, tolerance, spiritual effort. We cook ourselves to become something different. Like a raw egg thrown into the fire becomes this delicious scrambled egg. She also says that tapas is the day-to-day choice to burn non-supportive habits of the body and mind, choosing to forsake momentary pleasures for future reward. And I feel like everything I teach has a duality to it. And it's important to note that at the end of the day, there is no real duality, but it feels like a duality. So we just talked about following your pleasure in the sacral chakra. And that's so important because that's so much a part of who you are. But also, tapas is about really sitting with in your integrity, the integrity of self, your self-discipline. It's about knowing who you are and saying, you know what, there's a momentary pleasure here that I witness, but I am ascended enough. I am moving forward enough. I am awake enough to know that this is not going to support me tomorrow. This is not going to be the peace that brings me heaven on earth, permanent pleasure. So that is a really important piece of tapas, is to sit with things that are really uncomfortable. Sit with shame, really cry, yell, feel it, move through it, and come out the other side aware of of the magic of who you are, why you experience that, the lesson. So in times of catharsis, we don't have a choice. The choice is to break down or to break open. And that is also one of her quotes. We can't avoid these moments, but we have a choice. So you can either be that villain or victim at the big edge of that pendulum swing of the Manipura, or you can witness the blessing. We can embody the catharsis. We can sit in the discomfort and learn the lesson. So before, I have so many notes. If you know me, I have like 20 pages of notes here. So I'm going to stop now, but I'm going to post a lot more stuff about this because I am also a huge nerd and bookworm. But if anybody has any feedback on tapas or any questions that, just came up while I was talking about this, feel free to drop a comment now before I move on to a couple of things. And just so you know, someone who has a balanced Manipura, somebody who's moved through pride, anger, and shame, they're responsible, they're reliable, they're balanced. They have a healthy self-esteem. The Queen of Notes, I am. They have a balanced ego. A good relationship with your ego is huge here. That's that duality. I always say ego out when I'm doing spiritual stuff, but man, that ego is important when there's a bear chasing you. Warm. These people are warm. They're confident. They're spontaneous. They're playful and fun. They meet challenges head on. And it's a daily practice to engage in tapas. It's a daily practice to sit in places of uncomfortability. And we have a couple of yoga teachers on here. And that's one of the biggest pieces of yoga, is sitting in those poses where you're like, I really hate this teacher a lot. And you're just sitting in those poses. And it's so important because you're learning how to sit in discomfort, and you're learning how to process it and decide, because this is all about your individual choice. It's about doing the personal work. Jessie swings heavily between these two, and so do I, sister. Some days, my kids just told me I was making fun of Jack Nicholson in The Shining. And I was like, when he tells his wife, he was like, when he's yelling at her at the typewriter, and he's like, do not talk to me when I'm writing, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what a jerk. I would kill him. And my kids were like, that's exactly how you talk to us when you're writing. And I was like, that's a huge piece I'm going to have to work through.
So was that the mirror right there? Just
that was huge mirror, yes. And I was like, now I have to like undo the Shining archetype that I have here. Sitting in my shit, for sure. I swing heavily here. And it's really important to focus on the Manipur, because this ego scares people away, but man, there's something gorgeous about your ego too. So it's about doing the personal work to build up your authentic self, so it's easier to face the external challenges that would test your faith in yourself. You create space not only for your authentic self to emerge, but for the authenticity of others to emerge, even if they are only empowered by your example. So I honor the power within me. I honor the power within you. So that's a great mantra to take when you're doing Manipura work. All right. Any questions or feedback, Ashley?
I'm just super excited. Like, do you take on personal clients to like guide them through this? But we'll talk about ways to work with us at the end.
Yes, yes. I love snuggling all my clients. Thank you. So the next thing I want to talk about, and again, if you guys have notes, remember, we're going to post a lot of stuff. Just write down 2 or 3 things that meant a lot to you, because take what you want and leave the rest. That's the rule. When I think when you're in a spiritual container, there's so much. I have binders of notes that I have never looked at again. Binders. So Anahata, the heart chakra. So moving up to the heart. So I want you to send your hands to your heart. So just witnessing that you heal from the heart. This is the seat of balance, of love. And love is that peace that carries. So I want you to send your hands to your heart, and I want you to feel that energy of the heart running through your arms and then right back into your heart. And the element of the heart chakra, this is air. So one of the easiest ways to heal the heart chakra, again, is just to breathe, is to send those healing hands onto your heart and breathe. So the heart is the bridge between our earthly chakras and our celestial chakras. So the front of our hearts, this is a green vortex. So all of our chakras are these gorgeous wheels of energy. When I envision in my work and my research and just my moving into and embodying my heart chakra, the heart chakra shows up to me as a infinite vortex. There's no limit to this vortex. It's this gorgeous emerald green light. And Raphael would like to be acknowledged. Raphael's ray is also green. He's the archangel, and he has a lot to do with your divine love. So if you're doing any angel work, you can always reach out to Archangel Raphael when you're feeling you need some help with love, and just remembering you have the right to love and to be loved. That's a big piece of here. So just witnessing that vortex, that gorgeous green vortex, and it's infinite, and it's spiraling and moving and moving and moving. And just breathing and just feeling when we close our eyes and we send our hands onto our heart and we breathe, just witnessing how that heals the heart and softens the heart. So the purpose of the heart is both love and balance, which is one piece that usually gets overlooked when we think about the heart. So we're thinking about, again, balance. We have our earthly chakras and our celestial chakras. And here in the heart, this is the balance. Love is eternal. Love is our earthly experience, and love is our celestial experience. It is that peace that stays with us forever. So it is the bridge, and it's the balance between this world and the other world. So why am I speaking so much about the heart when it comes to authenticity? Because this is your gauge. This is your meter. This is that piece that's always with you. And before we move into that, I want to talk a little bit about that sacred heart that's behind you. So this gorgeous green energy, this huge vortex, this is your heart. And then behind you, just in your back, just behind that heart, and the heart is in the center. It's not your physical heart, it's in the center. There's this gorgeous pink diamond, this unbelievable ray of, it's your sacred heart. And your sacred heart is the seat of divine, Allison, angels, they're all over your chakras. So that divine, that your sacred heart in the back of your heart, this is your seat. This is the seat of your higher self. So whatever that manifests for you. So our higher self, that's that empirical person, that inner well, that soul space, who you are infinitely, your spirit. It's also, connected to the divinity of the creator. It's connected to God, the goddess, however that manifests for you. And this is divine and unconditional love. This is divine and unconditional compassion, divine and unconditional gratitude, divine and unconditional harmony and balance. So all of that exists in your energetic body. And balance, give and take, inhale and exhale, yin and yang, earthly and divine, masculine and feminine. So just considering that this is not just about love, this is about balance. And what's the balance of love? The balance of love is to love and to be loved. So this is a lot about self-love as well. That's why balance shows up here. One of the many reasons balance shows up here. And one of the most important pieces here is to receive and to give equally. So I have a lot of notes on the heart chakra, but the most important piece is, let's get to that. I have so many notes for you guys. Authenticity arises here when we trust in self. So if you have a question, that's what it was. So when you are walking and you're stepping into your power and you're being more authentic and you're saying things to people that are, they've never heard you say before. You have boundaries you've never had before. When you're walking authentically, this is going to trigger the shit out of people. This is going to make people freak out because they're like, who is that person? You don't have a right to say that to me. This is changing everything I know about you, blah, 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 blah. And there's all kinds of projections and upset. But what matters is you have a right to act and to be an individual. And you have the capacity to love and to be loved. And that's very important too. And that divine heart, that beautiful sacredness of who you are, this love piece, this is where we find faith in ourselves. This is where, when you are walking authentically, where you are in your power, you can say, am I doing this right? Is this the right thing to do? And if your divine heart, if you just put your hand on your heart and you ask your heart, you tune in and just say, hey, is this the right thing to do? Is this in the highest good of me and my friend, or me and my sister? I'm having a difficult conversation with my sister. Is this the right thing to say to her? Even though I've never said this kind of thing to her. This may really piss her off, but is this in the highest good of both of us? And that's when your heart says yes or no, because sometimes it says no. But this is the place where you find faith in who you are, where you find faith in your higher self, where your divinity resides. Love, it's what moves us from lifetime to lifetime, ancestrally. It's all the different places. And this is your guide. So trusting in your heart when we're working authentically, this will tell you if you're in the right. There's no right or wrong. This will tell you if you are in alignment. That's a better way to say that, when you are in alignment with yourself. And make no mistake, you have a purpose here. There is a piece you're supposed to be doing. There is something that needs to happen, authentic to ourselves. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Moulin Rouge is everything, isn't it? Didn't connect angels to chakras. Yes, Allison, like I said, they're all over. But this is that seat. And if you leave with nothing else, the most important thing that I'll say today is to trust in your divine heart, because this is who you are, and this will guide you every step of the way. So all the different pieces you're pulling in, and you're acting authentically. And, sometimes authentically is uncomfortable. So I'm just going to go back to BDSM, because if you know me, you know that I've spent many years being very quite Stepford. as a matter of fact. And for me to even say BDSM aloud is a huge step for me, just like that. So for me to like, maybe in my heart, maybe I've always been guided towards something like that. Maybe that's something that's calling out to me, but it's so taboo and so ick and so not what I want to be, blah, blah, blah. But it's really important to follow your truth and checking in with your divine heart and saying, is this the right thing for me? And it might be, and it might not be the end game. It might just be the next step on the path. So it's about tuning into your heart. Jess.
And, I want, just because you mentioned BDSM, I want to bring it up too. I actually have a series I'm working on my business page called The Theology of Kink, which most people, if they say theology, that means like divinity stuff and kink. How are you matching this together? But of 5 years of work in this realm, the biggest taboo of all, Beth, is authenticity, like an expression in all of its forms. And honestly, if we want to go back to some of the things that we said, I do have some, I don't only work with sexology clients, but when I have them come to me and say, am I going to hell because of I like to do this, this, and that? Oh, baby. All that religious rigidity and dogma that has been put upon them, that they can't express themselves in this way. Or am I loving my spouse like Christ loved the church? Or am I honoring them and building those foundations for them to step into their greatest taboo? Could be with a little bit of kinky fun. And you know what? We'll go back to something that you said in the solar plexus area, where you were talking about taking risks. This is huge. This is how we get kinky, we get silly, we get what we want out of life, and then we can get what we came for when we stand in that all together. So I'll stop there because I know you've got one more section to go on. This is so good. I love this.
Yeah, thank you. So with your heart, another thing I just wanted to mention, the demon of the heart is grief. And the heart is this balance piece. So remember, this is where the heart is where duality ceases. So grief, what is grief but a measure of our capacity to love? So that's one of the things that carries me through my deepest moments of grief is, my God, look how amazing it is to love, how powerful it is to love. So just witnessing that there's no good and bad, there's no right or wrong, there's no duality. Each piece comes together to form an experience, an expression. And the heart, that center of balance, this is where we celebrate that dissolving of duality. And that's a hard learned concept, hard won concept. I am not there. I can teach it and I'm working on it, but it's definitely a piece where I have to really always connect how I experience the world and how I view the world. And again, remembering blessings rather than victimizing ourselves. Go ahead,
Allison's asked a couple times right here, like divine heart, is there another name for this? Is this self? Is this a soul? What is another way to comprehend this?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I missed that, babe. But this is the divine heart, to me, is a lot of things. So I'm pretty heavily entrenched in the Sophia Code right now. And one of the programs I'm working on is I am working with Kaya Ra to actually be able to lead Sophia Code circles, to bring people into the different initiations of all the different ascended masters of the divine feminine, Mary Magdalene, the Mother Mary, Green Tower, all those different pieces. So that is coming up. But in the Sophia Code, I think Mother Mary is actually who's associated with the Sacred Heart, with the heart. And her message to you is that this isn't just the seat of your higher self. This is the throne of your higher self, and that you are a queen, and that your love is infinite, and your love and compassion, this divine heart is what makes you, this is everything. It's how you move through everything. So to me, the divine heart is your soul. It is your connection to the oversoul. It's your connection to Sophia. It's your connection to God. Sophia is God, the mother and the father. So this is This is the Sophia Code. To those who don't know, this is about the bringing in that transformation from a patriarchal society and bringing in the Divine Mother, celebrating Mary Magdalene, celebrating even, it's celebrating feminine Christ consciousness. Even the ways that Jesus taught us to celebrate women, we have not been able to do. So that's a lot of that piece. I digress. I'm so excited about that. But the Divine Heart is what's divine about you. It's such a gorgeous book. And so your divine heart is whatever you think it is. I call it a million different things. But it is your sacred heart. So if you were to look this up in yogi philosophy, it's the sacred heart, and it's not always mentioned. My favorite chakra book is Eastern Body, Western Mind. And she doesn't talk about the sacred heart the way I talk about the sacred heart. I bring that in from different it is the yogic philosophy, Hindu philosophy coming in, but it's a little bit different than the typical 7 chakra module that Anodea Judith has this gorgeous book about. So let's see. Excellent book. So the other piece I wanted to touch on, and I'll be brief because we're getting close, is the Vishuddha chakra, Satya, and Archangel Michael. And I'm probably going to rely heavily on Archangel Michael rather than move too deeply into chakra and Satya. So yes.
Hey everybody. If you're good for time, Beth, we might go a little bit over, and if y'all can't stay till it, you can always watch the replay, but we've got some more good stuff that's coming up. So if 11:30, if 11:30 is your boundary, cool. I'd rather go for quantity and quality rather than squish it in time. Are you good with that?
I'm fine with that. I can move through Vishuddha. If anybody wants to jump off, like you said, that's perfect. They can come back in. So I will go into the 5th chakra. So the 5th chakra is this is our throat chakra. So this is a light blue energy. And our throat chakra is the first of our celestial chakras. And this chakra is not just about speaking your truth, it's about hearing truth. So there's a big piece there. There's 3 pieces: speaking your truth, receiving truth, and it's also about your creative expression. So yes, we're creative in that sacral chakra. Yes, we're, making all kinds of magic in this sacral womb area, and it's gorgeous, and we're finding our pleasure. But it actually has to carry up through our independence, through our capacity to love, and through the funnel of the throat chakra, which tends to get funneled because it's one thing to be gorgeous in the body, and it's another thing to express your authentic voice to the world. So just like we talked about before, we talked about being home in quarantine and being in this place where we're sitting real close with ourselves and we're sitting in our shit. I love that throat chakra too, Mom. It is my favorite. So we're sitting in we're home, we're sitting in all of our stuff and we're working through it. And we are having strong conversations with the people we love in our life. We are cutting ties with people that no longer support us or love us. All of our higher selves love each other. It's about who you align with. And we're making amends. We're figuring out how to not impede on somebody else's boundaries. We're seeing how we're projecting on people. So we're doing a ton of personal work. And then, so all that's happening here. And there's all this gorgeous love. And then we come out into the world, expression. So now not only are we speaking our truth to a bigger audience, we're also receiving truth from the audience. Again, mirror theory, always. So the world is coming back to us and showing up with truth. And we have to be in our truth and expressing our truth. So we have a right to speak and to be heard. And we're empowered by our Manipura, vetted through the divine love of our heart, to use our throat to move where we need to be authentically in the world. Blah, 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 I said that. Deficient. So a couple of different things. So throat chakra can be a sneaky one to work with. Are we really expressing our truth? There's so many different ways to bring the throat chakra in and to express ourselves authentically. So if you have a fear of speaking, if you have a small voice, if you have difficulty explaining how you feel, or even if you have any idea how you feel, do you know what your feelings are? if you're introverted, if you're shy, if you're tone deaf, these are ways that your body's telling you you might be deficient in your throat chakra. Now, excessive, if you talk too much, if talking is a defense for you, that's key for me. I start talking to defend, to just diffuse all the other things. That's a way I'm excessive. You know, do I have an inability to listen or comprehend when somebody's saying something to me? Do I understand their perspective? Excessive people would not be able to understand that. Excessive people gossip. They have dominating voices. They interrupt speakers. So these are ways to know if your third chakra is out of balance. And again, it's a pendulum swing. It's both. Sometimes I don't want to talk at all. Other times you can't shut me up. So I have to find that healthy medium, right? I have to find that balance of saying my truth and stopping when my truth is finished and listening to feel what other people are, how the world is reflecting back to me. So one way, and I wanted to make sure you guys had ways to heal. Obviously, the breath goes through here, but this is where I like to engage neck rolls. So I never go back. So I had surgery on my neck, probably from a clogged throat chakra. But if you just do some neck rolls, this helps to loosen that up. So there's different ways in yoga that we do it. But if you just do some gentle neck rolls from ear to chin to ear to shoulder, that's a gorgeous way of opening up that throat chakra. Singing, going out in the car and singing. I think my throat chakra was like this because I sing in the car all the time. And during quarantine, I was never in the car. And when I was in the car, both my kids were in the car with me, so I couldn't really use the vibrato that I would like to use when I'm by myself. So singing, chanting, journaling is another expression, getting what you're feeling out onto paper. So these are different ways to work with your throat chakra. So I want to get into Archangel Michael. So the throat chakra, obviously for communication, a lot of times is associated with Archangel Gabriel. So Gabriel's the archangel of communication. Gabriel is also the archangel involved with magic and water and all these gorgeous things. However, when I work with the throat chakra, I work with Archangel Michael. So if you're new to archangels, Archangel Michael is the gateway drug into the world of spirituality. So Archangel Michael is this, and I had Archangel Michael in here and I gave it to my daughter because we watched a horrifying movie last night, so it's in her bedroom. But Archangel Michael is usually portrayed with a sword. And he slays demons. He slays the devil in Christian theology. But really, what that means to me is he slays ego. He is slaying patterns. He is slaying conditioning. Archangel Michael is chopping down away at the battlefield to help you express your truest self. So when I work with Archangel Michael, he's about finding that, removing those blockages so that I can get my expression out into the world and that I can receive from the world what I'm supposed to be receiving. So Archangel Michael is shown as the warrior, and a warrior has a battleground. Krishna's coming up huge. Krishna also is a warrior and he's on a battleground, and Krishna has these huge ties to Jesus, and anybody who works in yoga knows about the phenomenal story of Krishna. But with Archangel Michael, one of the things that when I work with him is the battleground is no longer the Crusades. I don't know, I won't get into who was, I won't even get into that. But there's no physical, patriarchal, masculine battleground anymore. The battleground is feminine. The battleground is internal. So this is an internal battle that we engage Archangel Michael to help us to remove pieces of us that we don't need anymore. That's why I associate Archangel Michael with the throat chakra, because this is about finding my voice, having the courage to speak my truth. And as a warrior, Archangel Michael gives us this courage. He doesn't give us anything. We already have everything within us. He wakes us up to remembering who we are and how courageous we already are. So we are slaying ego and conditioning. So we said that this is about courage and strength. So we create and feel independent, and we feel love in the internal world. And this is gorgeous. And we work with Archangel Michael to get this out into the world safely. I'm just going to get rid of these notes because I feel like he's just moving through this. So he's about stepping into our true self. So Archangel Michael will help you with your expression and your authenticity in a lot of different ways. So we talked a little bit about, as we start to express ourselves authentically, we are going to trigger some people, we are going to inspire some people, and we're going to call new people in. So Archangel Michael is who you work with to help you cut those cords, those cords that are no longer aligned with you. So these are cords of attachment that people hook into you energetically. They don't even know it. So it's not about blaming them or being mad at them. It's an unhealthy attachment from one person to another, one energy to another, that Archangel Michael will help you to remove. He'll help you to witness it and remove it. So when you work with Archangel Michael, a lot of times when you say, oh, please cut the cords, all the cords, and by the way, he can't cut cords of love. So your love that runs between you and somebody else, he can't cut. But he can definitely cut cords where somebody's draining you, where somebody needs energy from you. He'll cut cords where you are draining somebody else, where you need energy from somebody else. And every time he cuts cords, it's in the highest good of all. Because I find a lot of cords are about enmeshment, codependency, checking in on what other people are doing because I don't even know what my authentic voice is and I'm afraid to use it. So that's one way Archangel Michael connects with our authenticity, is that he removes all that enmeshment, that codependency, by cutting those cords. Also, there's a lot of different ways that Archangel Michael can help you clear internally. So as a lot of us, well, we are all intuitive. We are all empaths. We are all the different things. We may shut some of these things down, but we are divine, energetic beings. And a lot of times the pieces within us are not our pieces. So it may be patterns and conditioning that we're working through, but a lot of times it's somebody else's shit. It's somebody else's emotions that you picked up just by walking past them. If my daughter's mad at somebody, I'm mad at somebody, and that's easy. That's my daughter. But, maybe I'm in a conversation with somebody and they're having a crappy day. And when I leave, now I'm having a crappy day. So Archangel Michael will help to pull all that not self energy right out of you. So these aren't things you need to sit with and journal on and work through because they're not yours. So anytime something's sitting with you and is resonating as your not truth or your not self, you can ask Archangel Michael to remove all of that. And by doing that, he reveals your authentic self, your authentic journey, the pieces of you that you need to sit with and work on, because he's getting rid of all the fluff, all of that stuff. Archangel Michael will shield you and protect you. And one of the biggest pieces that I work with Archangel Michael on is, surprisingly, and this doesn't come up much, is that Archangel Michael will show you your life purpose. So he'll help you to find career advice. He'll help you with, if you ask for his help. And again, anytime you work with angels, you have to ask for their help because we have free will. So we can do whatever we want here. That's part of the gorgeousness of the earthly journey, is that we can do whatever we want. We can create all kinds of havoc and hell on earth, or we can create all kinds of gorgeous, chaotic heaven on earth, however you want to witness it. But if you need help from your angels, and you are surrounded at all times by spirit, tribe, and angels, if you need help from your angels, all you have to do is ask. And they're always there. They always answer. They're never not too busy. Archangel Michael can be everywhere at once. He's here right now with me. If you are thinking of him, he is there with you right now. Archangel Raphael came in and I invited him. I invited all the angels to show up today. Anybody who wanted to speak, come on in. But Archangel Michael he'll help you dream about your purpose. He'll help you dream about the next step. And they're always working in your highest good. And you'll know you're talking to your angels, or you're hearing from your angels, or you're fearing your angels, because they're always feeling, not fearing, because they're always loving. They're always a loving voice, always encouraging, no matter what is happening. If it's a negative response, that's your ego. So just, always checking in. And yeah, I think that's it. That's really all I want to say about Archangel Michael. There are so many different things. So I will put so much information there about Archangel Michael, but he will clear you of stuff that's not yours. He will shield and protect you to stop negative energy from negative, positive, whatever energy, not self energy coming in. He will help you to unhook from things that no longer serve you. And that may be very uncomfortable for a period afterwards. There may be friends that you love. There may be, I have people in my life that, oh my God, I love them so much, but our journey is over. Our journey has to be over for the highest good of both of us. And that's a big piece of ascension work. And it's not about leaving somebody behind. It's about people finding their own paths. So it's really important to tap into that energy and trust in that divine self, knowing when to move on from somebody and when to, move into the energy with somebody. So Archangel Michael's always there to help you. Yes, the journey is done. Yes. So, yes, I think that's it. And I think we have one more piece from Ashley, if everybody has time. I'll let you step in.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, tell me how much you're loving Beth right now. Like, her brain just makes me excited to dive into everything. And yeah, such good stuff here. So the next chakra, because if you've been following along, we're going all the way up. We're going to talk about that third eye next. And this is where that intuition is. This is where it sits. This is where it lives. And some people call, yes, your pineal gland is there, but people call this the seat of the soul. This is where you just know. You know when something's right, you know when something's not right. Or you feel that in that solar plexus chakra, your gut's already telling you yes or no, or your heart is telling you. I mean, this is the point where everything is such an alignment that you start feeling it in every other place of your body. So before we jump into all of the fun things, your intuition can come from anywhere. This is wisdom. This is intellect. This is events and stories and mystical pieces of ourselves. There's so much to it. But I specifically wanted to speak to the Vatsyayana. And a lot of people are like, what is this? I've not heard this before, because that is the author of the Kama Sutra. So here's a book for you. It is a rather big book, but some people are like, oh, the Kama Sutra, this is all about crazy, wild sex positions. And there's actually 7 books of the Kama Sutra that guide you into not just sexuality, eroticism, but emotional fulfillment of life. And as everything comes into that alignment for your third eye, for your intuition to just like radiate into your body, and that knowing, not only will you be open to receive your divine vision, you'll be able to live in that divine vision. So we can talk about philosophers. Who inspires you? How is it that they knew what they knew? You know what? Here's something fun. If you have a favorite philosopher, or so far, what has been your favorite piece of your journey to self? Type it in the box real quick, just so we can tap into other people's energies of where do they get and glean their wisdom? Because intuition, yes, it can come from the inside, and that's that power of knowing. But we can also be fed by the ideas of others. We can be fed by somebody said something just the right way, but then once it gets wiggled and worked around in just that right way, then it lands in our heart a little bit different. And that's when knowing becomes knowing. And you know it not just in your bones, it's in your DNA. It becomes encoded in you. And that DNA just like wakes up and it gets so excited to just be divinely what it is. So whether it's vision, it's intuition, it's insight, perception, this is also where vulnerability comes back in, and trust. So this is that place where all of your chakras just kind of align and all of them kind of talk to each other, and it just feels amazing. This whole sacred energy exchange just starts happening. And then we'll get into the crown chakra, where you're just walking around like, yes, this is it. This is it. And you can look up for that divine guidance, but you can look down to the earth, as the earth is providing the foundation of the guidance for you. But it's also allowing your alignment of your spine to just walk confidently in the direction of your dreams, guiding others, holding space, doing so many different things to just, again, ground you, center you, and keep you whole. So yes, I brought the Kama Sutra for you today. It's fun. Somebody mentioned Rumi right now. Shams Tabrizi, if you don't know about Shams Tabrizi, was a weird figure. Rumi at the age of 37 met Shams Tabrizi. And this is not only in English, but it is in its native language here. And it just talks about the divine beloved that they were seeking for. And this has a lot of inspirational quotes. Oh, my camera went a little wonky. I'll come back. I paid way too much for this thing to be as blurry as it gets. But some of those ways for that third eye chakra, that we can nurture it, we can channel within it, is to open that energetic boundary to possibility. We are hardwired for repetition, for predictability, and for a lot of people, that's comfortable. When we can lean into that discomfort and break those boundaries, those shackles, those chains of comfort, and push beyond that, that's when we can see. That's when you know that you're imaginative and intuition, and you might even start channeling. Your dreams might start telling you things. You might close your eyes and you start seeing visions of things. And again, those other things you might just know. It makes no logical sense. You just know. And that is the last, I want to say last step of the journey along the way. But some of the ways, like Beth was talking about earlier, this is one where I brought, in the balance of things. If you are out of balance with this, you might lack concentration, be flitting with your mind here and there. Some people might be diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. If their third eye is blocked, you might have nightmares, or that inability to let go of the past comes up. You might have a narrow focus. You similarly might have too much time in self-evaluation with no results. You become addicted to that process of self-discovery and development without really picking something and choosing the yes of your soul. You're like, I'll try this, I'll try this, I'll try this, I'll try that. But it gives you that power to step into the yes of soul, and then all of those other things just make sense. You might be over analytical, but still missing some of the main pieces if you are out of balance here. So other ways to balance, meditation is magnificent. Meditation is great. Sleep. Some people sleep as an anxiety response. Some people sleep as an energy recharge. Some people can sleep because they're traveling different realms, however that goes. But if you start putting your screens away, putting away the things that are like feeding your eyeballs and your brain, and just allow yourself to set into like a self-hypnosis before you sleep, that can help get you there. Aromatherapy is an amazing way to get you there. Some things that really balance it, if you're into oils, might be frankincense. Lavender is what a lot of people use around bedtime as well. Neroli has like a citrusy smell to it, and juniper as well. Your diet is a big thing about this as well. If you are into 5-element philosophy at all, there is not just eating for your blood type as a thing and a way to maintain and manage your diet, but if you know what your elemental constitution is, which is a whole fun conversation that we'll bring in another sister to speak to all of the magnificence there, but taking care of your constitution will magnificently change the way that your pineal gland is able to connect to the soul, to everything else that comes about. Caffeine can be good in moderation, but we'll talk about that later. We can talk about herbalist fun, other affirmations. Affirmations are the last one I want to chat to, or yoga. No, we'll end with yoga because Beth is an amazing yogini. So affirmations that you can say is that I recognize wisdom comes from within, and honoring that. I see all situations clearly and with objectivity. Receptivity, trusting it, understanding the truth of what it is, being open to that inner guidance, and knowing that the knowledge of the universe is within you. That church of you already has all of the answers that you could possibly need. And stepping into that yes of soul and trusting it so completely that you don't outsource things and grasp for things to make sense to fill you, understanding the power of the beginning. In the beginning, there were words. In the beginning was I am. And if you step into the I am of you, you'll realize that you have everything that you need to cultivate authenticity if you stand in the power of your yes, to say yes to your soul. And that is where I will stop with the 6th chakra today.
Very good. So I think,
go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. Allison said, don't outsource. That was huge. Stop outsourcing your life. Love that. What a perfect place to land, because that is what a lot of us do. We work, I won't get into it. I digress, but that is a huge comment, and I'm going to let that land. I think I'm going to let that land personally for people. Yeah. So
hopefully this was amazing. Hopefully you did get fed, but from the fire hose of the truth of who you are, or who you want to be, or the power you want to stand in. And if you need nurturing in that, not as another self-help tool that you want to be addicted to, but you want to be guided to that, because nobody can give you anything. It's you saying yes to what you have. There are amazing ways that Beth and I are building this series bigger. Beth, do you want to talk about the retreats?
Yeah.
People are just like sitting in, oh my gosh, this was crazy and amazing. I want more.
Yeah. Yes. So Ashley and I, part of what we wanted to do, part of our vision for this was not only to come here today and do this masterclass, but we want to create affordable, economical ways to come together as a community. There's a lot of heightened energy right now. There's a lot of things happening. So more than ever, it's important for us to come together as a community. It's important for us to come together in love, even though our stories are different, even though we align with different paths, even though we have different opinions about the world, the state of the world, how things should go. That's walking in our authenticity, is really owning the gorgeousness of what's truth to you. And allowing people the space and divinity for what's true to them. And even if maybe we're still on the journey, unless you are gorgeously enlightened, and I honor you if you are, that is perfectly possible. And we have glimpses of that, all of us, because we're just remembering the perfectness of who we are. But, as we're on our journey, our truths change. Things come in our path and they change our, it's not that our truths are changing. We're getting deeper and deeper into our sovereign being, into the truth of who we are. So we're witnessing things differently. We're on a journey. We're just on the next step of the journey. So Ashley and I wanted to facilitate this in a manner that was affordable and reasonable. So we are going to host 3 different retreats this fall and winter. So the first retreat is so many papers, but it's in your handout. The first retreat is about moving through grief. So this is a huge piece, and we touched on grief. And this is about, it's about that capacity to love. So grief isn't just about losing somebody. All of us have experienced grief, and all of us have lost somebody that we love so much. So grief over somebody dying is one piece, but grief is something that manifests in so many different ways. Grief over the person we used to be, grief over the life we used to have. I know people who have grief over past lives. That's some deep grief that they need to clear.
Generational trauma.
Generational trauma. So there's a lot of different ways that grief comes up. And especially right now, as we're transitioning, grief is a huge thing to be able to move through and just honor the gorgeousness of your capacity to love. So that's that retreat that's coming up. We're going to host these very much in the feminine. We're going to bring a feminine energy into each of these because we want to celebrate, Ashley talked a little bit about the third eye and about how you may be really, really book smart and know all these things and have all these notes, but you're missing the point. That's because there's a balance of the masculine and the feminine. There's the masculine, that learned knowledge, that creating the container, that documentation, that math. And then there's this feminine knowledge. This is that emotional body. This is that wisdom piece. This is trusting in our claircognizance, trusting in the remembrance of who we are. So there's that gorgeous piece. So we're going to in our patriarchal society, in this gorgeous patriarchal society, celebrating all the pieces of the masculine, because I don't hate anything. We don't hate anything. Celebrating the masculine. We have gorgeous sons that we celebrate, but we want to help bring in this feminine, nurturing energy to grief, and for everybody. So it's for men and women.
So one thing about this that I also want to include, if you are far away, that's okay. We have an online option as well as an in-person option. If you want to come in person, we will honor whatever Corona courtesies are important to you. Statewide mandates we might have to follow for New Jersey and Cape May. If you want to talk a little bit about Cape May and the amazing things about it and why we've chosen this space, that would be amazing. But especially as we're talking to grief, we have a full day set for you. We've got some fun rituals planned. If we are beachside, I'm even going to do a funeral series ritual where you might even get buried or let those things die so that you can completely stand in maybe a grief that you never really got. There's a lot of people that have things that they're not allowed to say, Beth. So whether it might be the death of a person, the death of an idea, the death of a career, the death of themselves, what if there's a decision that was made along the way that they really have a hard time with? Let's bury it. Abortion comes up a lot, and I'm not going to talk to the taboo-ness of this, but some people might have grief over a decision they made. They might not have grief over it at all. And at the same time, society tells you you can't grieve. And so a lot of people struggle with this because it's your choice. You made your bed, you sleep in it. Okay. There's still a real grief that comes in that. And there's other ways that society has told us that we can't grieve about other things. Oh, you're married now. Beth, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring you on this one. You're married now. You shouldn't ever grieve your first husband, the love that you found. You're not allowed to grieve over him anymore, Beth. Who is the keeper of the codes?
Right. No rules.
You. That church of you makes the rules. And if you need to grieve something, this is a beautiful space to be held magnificently, online or in person, to allow these grief things to just be honored. We don't need to get on with our lives. There's a beautiful TED talk I shared, I know, with a couple people that are in here. Her spouse had died and she was married, and people kept saying, when are you going to move on? When are you going to move on? And she's like, I'm moving forward. The beautiful remembrance and recognition of the value that they had on my life, and even the foundational pieces that they had in building who I am. So I'm never going to move on, but I'll move forward. Bigger, better, faster, stronger, all the words that we want to put in there, and stand more aligned in the power of who we are. And honoring grief is a huge piece of that.
That was beautiful. I don't know how I can follow that up, but yes.
So October is grief, November is transformation, and then December is going to be about the light. Similarly, we're going to bring angels in. We're going to allow that channel guidance to come in. It's just going to be so good. So do we want to talk about money?
Yes.
So people are comfortable with that and to prepare for it?
Yep. Okay. So the Cape May, gorgeous. So Cape May is the southernmost point of New Jersey shores. It is a magical area. It is such a beautiful energy. So we're going to be hosting there. We will be in Airbnbs. There's an Airbnb with a huge main room. So we can separate. If you do come to Cape May, you would need to find your own accommodations, obviously for COVID reasons. So we're keeping the price low. You could also just drive to Cape May for the day, because it's an all-day event on Saturday, and then Sunday morning we just have closing ceremonies. And of course, there's dinner and all the things for anybody who's staying in Cape May. And the whole thing can be streamed online. You can be part of our container online. So each of these retreats, if you're staying with us, it's $200 per retreat. That's for everything, the food that's included, and we'll have everything posted.
For our stuff included, you have to get your accommodations.
Yes, accommodations. You must get your own accommodations. And if you're doing it from home, it's $175, because obviously we're not feeding you. And then we have a special. It's if you're going to come with us, it's $555 for all 3 retreats. It's $444 to do all 3 retreats from home, virtually. If you are military, a first responder or essential worker, we honor that you did not get the precious little break that most of us got. So all coming with us for all 3 retreats is $500 or $400 online for all 3 retreats. So to celebrate and honor our military and our first responders who really got kind of beat up this past year. And I think, do we want to talk about anything else? I think that those are our retreats. We're super excited about them. We will post things in this Facebook group so you guys are aware. There's a handful of other people who signed up, so they'll catch this on the replay. And this masterclass is completely free. So if you loved this, tell your friends to register for it, and we will put them in the Facebook group. We would love for them to engage and be a part of this as well, because, you know, our biggest piece is accessible healing. It's accessible authenticity, and it's part of our dharma and it's part of our karma, is to bring this stuff to as many people as we can in a manner that's available. We want this to be an available piece to everybody. So we would love anyone you know to come in.
Bring your BFF. Or Allison says, BYO BFF. Bring your own best friend forever. Or you know what? During this process, you might find a new tribe or a soul tribe or your online family in the process. And that's another connection that we are greatly encouraging. So we hope that you'll be able to join us. And if you found that you really aligned with something that Beth said and you want to work with her, message her. There's no competition. We are rooting for each other's rise in every single way. If there's something that I said that really resonated with you, reach out. I've got a couple programs that are going on amazingly right now. If you want to figure out, oh gosh, what's this theology of kink that she's talking about, find me on Facebook or Instagram. Again, the biggest taboo of all, authenticity, and the other transformational pieces I do. We can talk about our offerings on our own websites. We're going to keep this container specifically for those live series or the live retreat series. Our hashtag, you can find it on either. But get what you came for. If you need guidance, hire somebody to get you there who's not only going to be your biggest cheerleader, but your way leader and guide at the same time, just to bring you back to the church of you.
So thank you.
We'll drop those links for all of the people who might want to do individual ones or the group packaging ones in the group. Might be by the end of the day, but definitely jump on this because we've got limited spots just because of the COVID restrictions. For the in-person ones, online, we have a bit more flexibility with. But we are so excited to have been here today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming to church with us this morning. Thank you for coming back to you. And it's just so good. It's just so good. And Beth is amazing.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Ashley. This was gorgeous. I so enjoyed working with you. And wonderful. Yep. Happy Church Day, Teresa said.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
See you later.